G'day ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Trigonometry 5. To find the missing angle in a right angled triangle using trigonometry, we have to use the inverse. We can enter this into a calculator using the shift button. Now then, sine, cosine and tangent all have an inverse, and depending on which formula we're using, that'll tell us what to inverse. And like I say, you find on a calculator by using the shift button. Now, in this triangle here, we're trying to find this angle, theta. Greek letter we use for an unknown angle, nothing scary about it. It's just the same as any normal letter, guys. Okay then, so we'll say this side here is 10 centimeters, and this top side here is 14 centimeters. Right, as per usual, first thing to do is work out what sides we're working with. Opposite the angle, we don't have the opposite. We've got the longest side there, the hypotenuse, and we've got the side next to the angle, the adjacent. Right, I know my trigonometrical formula, so I can remember that this one, adjacent and the hypotenuse, is cosine. So we have cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Right then, time to substitute in my values. I don't know the angle there, so we're going to leave it as theta. Cos theta equals adjacent we have 10 over hypotenuse we have 14. Anytime we're trying to find the angle, we're going to have a full fraction on the right hand side of our equals there. Right then, now the inverse of cosine, I'm going to write this in the brackets. We write that as cos to the minus 1. What that does is gets rid of that cosine there and just leaves us with an angle. Now then, we've got to do this to both sides. So, when we do it to the left hand side, it gets rid of that cosine there, and we're just left with theta equals inverse cosine on an angle. Now, if we're using an inverse function, we need to make sure we've got both parts of that fraction filled out there. Now, because this is an angle, we normally round off to 1 decimal place. We do this because 1/10 of a degree is really small. So here we go, let's enter it into the calc. Cosine, use the fraction button, 10 divided by 14 equals, and we get 44.41 degrees. That rounds off to 44.4 degrees to 1 decimal place. Like I say, we normally use 1 decimal place for angles. Right then, quite straightforward. Do some more practice. Right, as per usual, I'm going to think about the other angle. We're going to get this angle here. We're going to call it theta again. And this time, I'm going to say that this length here is 25 centimeters. And this length here, keeping it roughly in proportion, we'll call that 11 centimeters. Right then, time to work out which trigonometrical formula to use. Right then, opposite the angle, yes, we have that one, so I'm going to call this one opposite. And then we have, there's the hypotenuse, we don't have that, so we've got the adjacent to the left hand side here. Opposite and an adjacent, sorry. I know that we're going to use tangent, so I'm going to say tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. Substituting my numbers. Now, don't know the angle, so we're just going to leave that as theta equals opposite is 25 over 11. Now with sine and cosine, it's going to be a normal fraction less than 1 because they only work for numbers in between 1 and -1. Tangent though, you can have a top heavy fraction, but it's exactly the same to sort it out. We're going to undo that tangent by inversing it. Tan to the -1. It is slightly different notation to normal indices. If we say tan to the -1, in terms of trigonometry, we mean inverse tan. So that gets rid of that there. So we're just left with theta on the left hand side equals inverse tan on, when I say on, I always draw my brackets, 25 over 11 and make sure my fraction's filled up, approximately equal to. just spend a little bit of time putting that into the calculator. Make sure I've got the brackets closed off. 66.25 degrees, which rounds off to 66.3 degrees again to 1 decimal place. Can take a little while to get used to, guys. Don't be afraid. It's quite straightforward. Ask your teacher if you've got any problems. Enjoy your worksheet. Take care.